Hello and welcome to the Omnex webinar, Proactive Supplier Quality Management. Today's webinar is presented by Antony John. Antony John is the Vice President of Omnex Systems. He has 22 years of experience transforming technology businesses across global markets and different customer segments and for profitable growth. Antony also possesses strong experience working in information technology, automotive, aerospace, oil and natural gas, and insurance industries. During this webinar, if you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A box, and Antony will get them to the best visibility based on time at the end of the webinar. We will respond to any questions he can't get to during the end of the webinar through email. This webinar is being recorded, and someone from Omnex will contact you after the webinar. All right, Antony, you can take it away.
Thank you, Miles, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for the global team that's joined here today. Thank you and welcome once again to the Omnex webinars. Presentation today, we're going to be focusing on how you could proactively manage supplier quality management through a digital platform. Okay. Just a little bit about who we are. We are in the industry of quality and business management and focused also on supply development. I mean, Omnex grew from being a U.S. organization to a global enterprise with supply development programs. We are globally located in about 16 offices. The 6 key industries that we serve are the automotive, aerospace, semiconductor, high-tech medical devices, and also do a lot of work in the electric and autonomous vehicle space. I think most of you are familiar with Omnex. I'll skip these slides. This is our global presence. Topic for today is that what we have come across working with different customers in the industry space is that supplier management today is still being handled using emails, Google spreadsheets, shared drives, and one of the vision of Omnex is to actually have or recommend digital platforms that could enable all the organizations to help with a very effective quality supplier management solution. In this presentation today, we'll be covering how you can, using a digital platform, manage supply PPAP, supplier audits, SCARs, metrics, and scorecards, and so on. Let's talk about some of the challenges. And when I discuss this list of challenges with many of our existing customers and business analysts and consultants, they said, these are some of the challenges what the industry is facing. Tracking any of your new product launch, and the PPAP deliverables with the suppliers is very challenging. Even knowing, there's a frequent challenge of missing deadlines, supplier corrective actions, tracking their deadlines, what are the part waivers, deviation requests, all these is, again, very challenging and daunting. Onboarding your suppliers is also one of those challenges where you have hybrid systems, or you have to do this, in emails and spreadsheets. It's causing a lot of delay, and more importantly, even if you onboard a wrong supplier in your program, the challenge of that, the consequences of that is much higher. Another challenge is also reviewing of PPAPs, right, that you receive from supplier. Again, it's sampled, it's time consuming. There's only so much you can do with respect to a PPAP review. Usually it's about 25% is what is sampled. Can tools help remove that drudgery? Visibility of data. I mean, data is king, and today you are not able to see what is your supplier metric. I mean, it's possible, but then somebody has to crunch those numbers for you, provide you with that information. That's almost sometimes, we see like it's a full-time job. And what's also happening in the industry today is that the millennial workforce is actually entering being as part of the workforce. What is the tool set that you're offering them today? If we still offer them the Excels and spreadsheet when they were born with internet and mobile, is this something what they will be interested in working? Again, having not to have many organizations have adopted systems, but they have siloed their solution with somebody just looking at a supplier problem solving and a separate software for supplier audits. All this is actually, and this is some of the challenges, and I'm sure most of you there are saying, yeah, this is something what we face every day. And these challenges can be solved with a supplier management tool that with electronic workflows, right? Again, having a very streamlined and disciplined supplier onboarding process, from supplier registration to qualifying them to be a potential supplier, having them go through a self-assessment, and then also ongoing engagement audits. Performing these audits online, through a tool, documenting these findings and observations. Sometimes you're auditing the suppliers at their facility, and you may not even have network, right? So having a mobile device that will actually help you conduct that audit through a handheld device, and sending all those audit information real time to look at overall supplier performance. Supplier PPAP management, having to have a project that could manage all your supplier PPAPs that's needed for this program. Delivery status of each of those deliverables, what % they are completed, and able to rev control and also, have configuration management through the system. Change management, supplier deviation, all that could be part of this, this supplier engagement related to APQP or PPAP. Bringing in supplier inspections, conducting supplier inspections, having to work on supplier concerns will all be part of one system that could actually help you manage your suppliers proactively. Okay, this is a kind of a digital thread of information about your supplier, right from the time you onboard the supplier, and then you continuously work with them, including decommissioning of suppliers through a system. Okay. One of the things that these electronic systems offer you is that you're able to, communicate with the suppliers, and that entire communication management is very important. Timely communication, sending reminders, notification, and escalation is also key. With tools like these, you should be able to, you're working with suppliers, across the globe, and if this tool is able to offer you these notifications in the language of their supplier preference, like somebody, has a language preference of Spanish, able to notify about a supplier deviation request or a supplier PPAP delay through an email and an action, which are on the supplier's language preference being Spanish, would actually greatly help in the communication system as well. Just a quick look of the landing page before we go into the live demo of the software. This landing page is configurable. Both the supplier program manager, supplier quality engineers, and suppliers themselves, each of them can have their own landing pages. We'll be able to look at their reports, their data, what are all the tasks that are due, projects, and so on. So we'll see this live in action. I'll pause at different times of this presentation for you to document any questions and queries that you would have. I'm going to drop the screen from the window. All right. So when I talked about supplier landing page, and I said in a supplier landing page, you will be able to have access to any of the supplier information, their projects, their tasks, and so on. If you are able to look at their projects right here, their concern initiation, all of this will something what you should be able to see. Now let's look at the overall supplier program here. So you can actually have all your supplier program in one place. So for example, this is my vehicle program. I'm able to look at all the suppliers that I'm working with and see each of those project status. It gives me an overall view of the program, and at the same time, I'm also able to navigate to each of these projects and say, okay, this is a PPAP deliverable. What is the current status of those? And see, this project is complete. All the deliverables has been completed. I've had risks in these projects, so those risks are also documented, and I'm able to see all the information. Able to look at an overall timeline on this project. I'm able to see who I had engaged in this project. All the documents that are part of this project or program, I'm able to see these in the system. Also, any potential risk that I worked with this particular supplier on this program. So you're building a risk register and a database that you can reuse, working in an electronic platform. You can conduct gate reviews. You can actually have meetings with your suppliers and document action items and track those action items also in the system. Now, using a tool like this, you're also able to have clear visibility on where your project is. So for example, here, I can see some of these tasks are incomplete from a supplier and they're running late. Some of these documents that you would like to view it, you can just get and look at it and with a click, get to their documents that were submitted. These documents are actually change controlled and version controlled. And you can also set interim reviews. So if you wanted to, let's say it's a new product that you're launching and you want your suppliers to send interim updates on some of those design or manufacturing documents they're supplying to you, you can actually set up interim reviews, route them for approvals, and get all their approvals through the system. So there's almost like a single window system that they're able to send information related to PPAP. Now, if you want, this is a view from a program view, but you could also see all the projects that are associated to each of these. So I can click any of those completed projects and see details as well. So depending on the roles and permissions, so if I'm a program manager, I can see a program view with all the projects that I'm working. If I'm a project manager, I'm only seeing the projects that I've been assigned to. And if I am just a supplier, then I'm only seeing the projects that I'm working And suppliers don't get to change the schedule, start date, and end dates. All they are filling is a very simple interface. They are only filling the actual start date, end date, and the percent work completion. There are a lot more project management and program management capability that's built into the tool that you can effectively manage your launch process, like managing your overall baselines, if your program has a critical path, and availability of suppliers and so on. So, and I also mentioned that the entire suite is integrated with email reminders, notifications, and escalation. So let's say when a project is assigned, the suppliers are notified. When durations and tasks are due, the suppliers are notified. When tasks are not completed on time, there are reminders and also escalations built in. Now, the other side of the supplier management is also be able to manage your supplier audits, right? So you can actually conduct all your, you can have an annual audit plan set up for your suppliers. You can conduct annual audits through the platform. You can see all the audits conducted for the supplier, see what dates when the audits were supplied. So you can schedule the audit, you can identify the SQEs who's going to be working. In this example here, Matthew was the lead auditor, and he had point of contact. And part of that audit, they were able to document, observations and findings that from in the audit. And you can also see some of these that, if an auditee has responded to it, you can also see those status that are associated to it. Now, the audit itself, you can conduct using, checklist. You can, or you could use your standard forms. Those can be uploaded inside the system as documents, and you can conduct those audits. When you're writing up non-conformities as well, you should be able to document the non-conformity. You'll ship some of the standards. You can refer those standards in the software, and also you can categorize whether there's a majors or minors. And most of these configuration here is pre-configured, and if you would like to change them, you can also change. When writing these non-conformities, you can also link it to your supplier procedure and documents that you have as well. Now, suppliers will have the opportunity to be able to work on these audit findings. So now, based on your rules, if you have defined an 8D, then they will respond to the audit non-conformance and findings through an 8D, and you can review and close the audit. Okay. So an end-to-end audit from planning, scheduling, conducting the audit, suppliers responding to the audit findings, and the auditors closing the audit finding could be handled through the software. Now, you could actually see statuses of each of those audits. More, again, so for example, if you are sending a self-assessment checklist to your buyer, they'll be able to fill that self-assessment and at the same time also see what is the status of that, whether they completed that on time or not. You can look at overall corrective action status. So at any given point in time, if you want to know what are all the corrective actions that are pending, you'll be able to see that from the list as well. So each of these non-conformances are color-coded. One is to say whether was the audit completed on time or not, which could be on your internal metric, and maybe for self-assessment, it's a supplier metric. And if it's a non-conformance, is this progressing as planned, and is it being closed out? So having that visibility on where your projects, where your audit non-conformances are, and whether they are tracking towards closure through a system will help you proactively manage the findings that you had identified at the supplier. Again, supplier audit tool also provides you with automated emails. So when you schedule an audit, an email is sent out to the supplier, blocking their calendar to the point of contact. When you conduct an audit and submit the reports, the audit reports are sent out to suppliers. So the entire communication is automated through the tool. So you don't have to spend an extra time submitting the reports via email, tracking those in the tool. System does the automated email reminders on even the non-conformances observation that you want your suppliers to close out. That's on the audit side, and on the problem-solving side, you could also have like supplier concern. So you can initiate a new concern and assign it to a supplier. At the same time, you could also have a supplier participate in one of your customer complaints. So there are two use cases that you could have in working with a supplier corrective action. You could say that I have a supplier issue, it's a quality issue, able to specify what is the problem, classification, concerns, who's the supplier. So you can directly issue a concern. Again, this form that you see here is configurable to your need. That's something what we help, during implementations, you should be able to tailor it to whatever your needs are, and then have that set up. When you complete the initiate a new concern, automatically a quality alert can be sent out, and at the same time, the SQE is notified about the concern. So the workflow is that the supplier quality engineer is able to review that issue before they forward it to the specific supplier. Okay, so they can look at the concern, redefine the problem if they want to redefine, provide any tracking number. And now many of these forms are designed to what should be designed to what your needs are. And you could also should be able to say that, okay, if I have a priority concern, what will I do? So you may have different types of priorities, and if you want to have a different type of an approach depending on the type of concern, you should be able to configure that in the tool as well. And then once this concern is sent to the supplier, at any given point in time, you should be able to have visibility on what is the concern. Okay, what is the concern? What is the status of the concern? How is it tracking? So you will be able to see where your supplier is with that concern. So you can proactively help and guide them. And also, look at their approach on problem solving and give feedback and reviews and comments through this platform. Okay? So if you want to invite them into a meeting or even do an interim review around where they are with respect to this 8D. I mentioned there are two types of problem solving ideas. One where you are initiating a supplier concern. The second one is that you are working on a customer complaint, and then you realize that, okay, there were 5 root causes. The escape root causes were from you, but the occur root causes are from your suppliers. Then you can fork off a supplier concern, which is part of your main concern, and then have your suppliers completed. So the only way you close that 8D with your customer will be to, have your suppliers also participate in. I'll pause here for few minutes for you to maybe document any questions on what you're seeing so far. Um, okay, we'll continue on. So the other dimension to this is that the supplier metrics, right? How can I manage all the supplier um, um, uh, uh, data in the software? Now, with the centralized database, you are now able to see all the supplier information in one place. The software automatically provides you with um, supplier scorecard information, right? And these scorecards, something what you should be able to tailor it to your need, and a business intelligence platform will actually help you do that. Okay, so what I'm presenting to you is a BI platform um, uh, that will allow you to make these changes and modify these visualizations. So right now I'm a program manager. I'm seeing how many suppliers that I'm working with, what is my overall plan versus actual for this year, um, uh, what percent, who are my top challenging supplier, what are my top products that have defects. So this dashboard here is configurable. You can see a little bit more about the supplier details. What are your supplier audits? How many audits have you completed? What is the status of those non-conformances? What suppliers are having more challenges? Now, all this data will help you, work with your supplier, come up with some supplier development programs, and also, if you as an organization trying to drive, say, for example, zero defects, okay, so you can look at your supply chain and say, okay, what can we do to help the supply chain? Today, the visibility of this data itself is not available, is a big challenge, right? Uh, um, So I'm also able to see supplier audit findings, audit data. There's details associated to the audit data. All your PPAPs, are who are supplying, what are the PPAPs that have been submitted on time? Project-related details. What are the project risks that that you have? Who's your best performing supplier when it comes to submitting PPAP? Your PPM data is also visible. All your defects and analysis. So, for example, a heat map here tells you that these are all my common problems that I'm having, and you're able to drill down to a specific supplier who's responsible, including managing incoming inspection. Your concerns. What are all the new concerns? So I see a question which says, how do I manage a SCAR for each supplier? Yes, the software, having an 8D tool, allowing your suppliers to document the 8D. So I showed you an 8D form. Maybe I'll come back and show that. So each supplier will have an 8D, 7D, CAR, advanced CAR, PRR, whatever templates that you want your suppliers to follow. They should be able to follow and document their corrective actions. They can do interim reviews, publish them, so you are able to see the progress at any given point in time, and also track against those deadlines. So there's a question that will the supplier need to have an Omnex license or have their access via the free portal? So suppliers will also have their own logins. So you can open this to your supplier portal. Suppliers can log in and use the system. If the question is specific around will there be a additional charge or something to the supplier, that's something what I think can be handled from our sales team. who can give you that input. The idea here is that it's when you talk about a supplier management platform, having to provide your supplier the access to this platform will greatly help in you be able to track this information, right? Because there's no fun having to um, you document all the changes, you receive that electronically from your suppliers, and then come back and fill it in. So give them the access. They should be able to log in through a portal. From a security viewpoint, you can actually have multi-factor authentication enabled in the system. So the supplier, data is confidential, encrypted. I have a question about, will there be can this be, on cloud versus on-prem? Yes, you can actually install this within your firewall and still enable your suppliers to access it. Or if you can have it on a cloud system. So Omnex offers cloud offering where but you and your suppliers could actually log in and have status updates. Again, data will be secured with encryption, both at data at rest and at transit. Okay. So now, the other thing about this business intelligence as a tool is that you are not going to do anything extra to create these reports. Based on the data that's already available that you are entering in, software should be able to provide you these reports. I've seen many of you who joined in are supply quality engineers as well. So today, one of the things that you have to do is, present this to your management team. And often what happens is you are having to prepare this as PowerPoints and send it out. With the software, first you can slice and dice any of the data that you want to present, right? It's not just visually explore based on what you see here and analyze, but you could also slice and dice data in many different forms by different suppliers, by supplier audit information, period, year, and so on. And when you are ready to send it to your management team, you can, include annotations. Right? Make comments. You can export all of this to a PowerPoint, and we'll be able to. I'm just exporting the entire visualization that I had into a PowerPoint. And this will save you a lot of effort because there's really no value addition except that you're turning this into a document, and you can take it into a PowerPoint and present or email it to your management. Now, each suppliers will have their own scorecards as well, so you can see everything to a PowerPoint. So yes, suppliers can have their own scorecards. They will see their metric, but they cannot see other supplier metric. Even the SQE engineers or managers will only see the suppliers that they've been assigned or working, unless you give them the permission to do that. Okay, now you could also share documents with your suppliers, right? So for example, I'm a program manager. I have access to many documents, but I could share some of the supplier procedures or manuals, work instructions, checklists, whatever I want. I could enable them and give my suppliers access to use these documents. Similarly, you can conduct inspections through the system. As well. Now, what we saw so far is the management of PPAPs and audits, scars. We talked about metrics. I'm going to log in now as a supplier and also show you how the supplier view will look like. Pause here again for a couple of minutes. If you have questions, you can type them in. Okay. So when you log in as a supplier into a supplier portal, you see all the tasks that is due, what are the approaches, what are your projects that you're working on, all the supplier documents that I have access to, concerns that are initiated to me, so I can click open any of those concerns and then try to review the concern and respond to the concern. And so I have different formats that's available for me to respond to these non-conformances. So again, you could have customer-specific formats if you want them to respond to a customer-specific format, or you could actually have, you can see here I have different types of formats, cars and 8Ds, and you will be able to have your suppliers assign a specific format and then have them use those formats in the system. So from a supplier viewpoint, this is very simple. They just only see the projects that they are working, their deliverables. They cannot change, as I said, the schedule dates. They can upload documents. They can also mention what are their actual start date and end date. Now suppliers could also make deviation requests. And so if supplier wants to initiate a supplier deviation request, they can initiate a request. And these formats and forms that you see are something that you can tailor it to your form. And using the software, they can actually fill a deviation request form, which can then come to you for an approval process. You can also initiate a supplier deviation request if you want to. Now, the second part of this presentation and what I wanted to cover is that how do we make these PPAP reviews quicker, better, and faster, right? So one of the common pitfalls when it comes to PPAP reviews, your drawing requirements are not captured, there's missing certification, JRNR studies, what you performed are not good. More importantly, these studies, you have something in the control plan, but the equivalent JRNR information is not even available in some cases. Key metrics are not identified or controlled. Usually the submissions are, if they are incomplete, what happens in all this process is that you are investing time, you're reviewing the entire PPAP. In that review process, you also know there's only so much that you can do, and then I'll say maybe you're sampling 25% of the PPAP that you receive. What if you are able to have an artificial intelligence tool that actually can review your PPAP and give it an overall score and rating? So, for example, it can tell you that how good is your PPAP, okay? What is the overall quality of the PPAP? And this is something you can either let your suppliers review it before they submit the PPAP to you, or you can use it as an internal tool when you receive something from your supplier. Have the bot actually review the PPAP and give a finding, which you can then check manually and say, yeah, all these findings are valid, and then have the suppliers, work on those, findings from the bot. So let's look at one of those videos here that we have. So when I get my video again, please feel free to questions. Okay, let's continue. So here's a snippet of one of the examples of a bot reviewing a PPAP. So a PPAP was already submitted, and you can see here all the different deliverables that I have. And right now, bot has actually reviewed the PPAP, so anything that's in red highlighted, it's something what bot's saying, hey, that PPAP is not good, and there are findings that needs to be corrected. Okay. So for example, here I'm going to just show you some process flow and PFMEA findings. So on the process flow, for example, if you have not had a team to work on it, you can look at the findings on the team. There are some simple business rules like this the bot can identify. So if again, I'm showing you an option where it can be corrected. So for example, your suppliers themselves can actually correct the finding before they actually send it out to you. So okay, and I'm fast forwarding to a PFMEA. In a PFMEA, there are two types of rules that the bot actually will support. One is like machine learning rules, right, where they are identifying whether some information is available or not, right? So, for example, you had a recommended action, but or maybe you had a higher severity, but there's no recommended action, or maybe you had a recommended action, but you have not had any responsibility or a target date, right? So, when a supplier submits a document like that, immediately the bot is able to review and give feedback and say these are findings. Okay. There are more complex machine learning rules. For example, the bot can actually see. So, for example, I have a failure mode. Is the failure mode really a failure mode, or is it actually a derivative of my characteristic? Or some of the common problems that we have is column switching, where the cause is identified as a failure and failure is identified as a cause. So bot can also process that and give you a feedback if these failures are indeed really failures. Okay. So there are complex rules, complex natural language processing rules are also something what the bot can kind of prompt. So you can see here the supplier is able to actually make some of these modifications, verify them, and submit it before. Again, I'll pause here. I'll let you watch this video and see some of these edits that's happening. Also have you type in questions so I can answer them for you. So you can see here it's almost checking every single line, every single checkbox. So all the findings are, and there's no more sampling. Example of a control plan, right? So you see there are these business rules that you hear are pre-populated, and there are about 300 business rules that we have already trained this bot based on best practices that Omnex has working in the industry for about 35 years. So that knowledge capital is already available inside the bot. Now you may want to tweak some of the rules, which we can do, and if you want to add some business rules as well, you can add it. But in the process, you also have to train the bot with your data. Where the difference is going to be is that when you implement the system, like a PPAP AI reviewer system, you'll have to train the bot with your data, right? So the bot has to understand the context of your products. Training the bot will actually then help the bot learn from your good data set and bad data set, and will be able to give you these, validate and give you all the findings. So, for example, the bot is now looking at a control plan and saying some of your current control plan characteristics is not matching with the control methods that you have in FMEA. So remember, your suppliers are submitting Excel spreadsheets, right, to you. So that poses a problem, and you can just cannot. It's simply will take you so much of time just reviewing row by row all these documents and matching them. So that drudgery we can take out using this bot, where it instantaneously tells the suppliers or you, well, if you're supplier quality managers, you're saying that these are some of the findings that I have. So you can also see that there are certain, in your print you had actually certain characteristics, but those are not they are missing. So any key characteristics that you want to be tracked and it's not there in your control plan is immediately brought to your attention here. All right, so I'll stop here and go back to the presentation. So we covered how PPAPs can also be reviewed using artificial intelligence and bots. So I'll talk about some of the benefits and then review all the questions you have, and I'll try to answer them for you. One is having a comprehensive platform that allows you to have all your supplier PPAPs, APQP audits, supplier cars, inspections, metric in one place is a big deal. Just imagine the level of visibility that you have. Not just visibility, you're also building a knowledge bank, right? So you're able to now have instantaneous access to a lot of information which are like scattered and are not available in one place. You can streamline your entire supplier onboarding process. You can effectively manage all your supplier projects and track deadlines. With failure data that you have and problem solving, you can actually come up with your annual reduction, PPM reduction plan through many supplier development initiatives, right? And Omnex has actually helped many of these supplier development programs and improvements. You can virtually collaborate with your suppliers. You can share documents. You can share audit results. Mobility, again, will help you in a big way. Mobile apps for audits, problem solvers, and things like that is available for you to manage and track all these actions. With bots and artificial intelligence, you significantly reduce the drudgery that you have to go through PPAP reviews. Problem with the time that you spend, still it's never 100% and it's never comprehensive. That's something what the bots can review for you. Okay. The way we see this entire platform, a digital platform, or any electronic system that you go into, having it, centralized and being one firm, one is a digital thread. You're able to track the supplier from womb to tomb, and also you're building a knowledge base inside the organization. Maybe I'll pause here again. Feel free to type in any questions. I'm going to go through the questions and answer them for you. So will suppliers have, will each supplier have their own car? Yes, you can have suppliers log in and document cars. You can define, to your suppliers whether you want to use 8D, car, PRR. Again, it could be your internal format, or you directly want them to be a customer-specific format. You can pick and choose the format you want. Okay. And also there's flexibility because you're coming from different industries. You may not be using 8D, or maybe you might say, I don't want to have my supplier just do 8D for every single problem. Some of them I'm happy even if they are able to respond with a car, versus some of them I really want them to do an 8D. So you, based on the priority and the criticality of the problem, you can do that. But you should have not just an 8D form, but you should have an integrated 5Y, 5W2H, is this not analysis, possible cost form, fishbones. All these tools will be available for your supplier to do the problem solving. That's the benefit of this tool. And your 8D should get auto-populated as you work on these, tools. Okay? Please share the recording. Definitely, yes, we will. You can reach out to our sales team. Will reach out to you based on these questions that you had, and they will try to share the recording. Will the supplier have access to the portal? Yes, the suppliers can be given access to the portal so they can directly update status, and you are having a real-time idea of where you are with each of your suppliers. So we have system able to archive supplier certificates and manage expiration. Yes, the supplier portal will be able to include supplier certification. It's not in the release that I've presented today, but the new version actually has the capability to have supplier certification. That's a release that should be get released in the year. Will the system be able to generate customer-specific problem-solving formats? Yes. So the way the software works is that now you can ask your supplier to say, hey, I want you to develop this in 8D, right? Or you can tell them, okay, my customer format is PRR, I want you to, or PSD, I want you to just develop this in a PSD format. You can do that. The other way to do that is that you can ask your suppliers to fill in 8D, and then when you want to submit it to your customer, you can always convert that into a PSD or any other format that you have. Again, there are many different formats that are built into the product. You can use any of those formats. Yes, so there's a question is there anything in the portal where you can generate minutes of the meeting automatically, probably write down the points? Yes, so in the first part of the presentation, I talked about meetings. So yes, you can create meetings. The software will send out a meeting calendar. You can actually even have recurring meetings. And in each of these meetings, you can document, have an agenda, who's presenting. You can document action items that come into that meeting. Now, let's say, for example, this is a recurring meeting. The next time you come in for the meeting, you don't have to redo this whole exercise. The software will take the previous agenda, previous week's action items, meeting minutes, everything, and present it to you. Then you can just conduct that meeting. Okay. How long does it take to set up 100 suppliers? So, so for example, if you want to bring in your suppliers, you can import your suppliers, okay? And depending on what stage they are in, they could be approved suppliers, some could be, in process of approval. Again, there's import tools available that could actually help you bring in your suppliers into the system. Is the PPAP management function, does the system facilitate a PSW approval step? This is a manual document today. Will the system find an approval? Yes, so PSW, could be an online form inside the software that you can actually have the supplier fill in and route it for approval. What's in the tool is that you can actually have the suppliers upload documents, number one, or there are online forms that is available that will allow the suppliers to fill that information and submit. Both of these could be going into, if you want an auto approval, that's one option, but if you want a formal approval process, you can also set up a formal approval process. There's also interim approvals available. So for each deliverable also, you can choose whether you want an approval or not an approval. And then you can also set up interim approval. So as I mentioned to you, it's a new product, and let's say your design is actually coming from your supplier. you can have interim reviews scheduled for the DFMEA. So when they are 30% ready, you can, once you set up the intervals that you need, either by percent complete or by date, the software will then prompt the supplier to submit the DFMEA for review. You can actually have a review completed. Can we have inspection plans for incoming inspection? Can we maintain inspection record in the portal? Absolutely. I did not cover that due to lack of time, but yes, you can actually have your supplier inspection plans. We have a mobile app for you to conduct your supplier incoming inspections. The inspection forms can also be tailored to whatever forms and formats you're using today, and you can document inspections. So software will give you out of the box many business intelligence reports. You can also have your suppliers, also send any information that is related to that. Population is an option to have a source from to a group to train, set up implementation stages. Yes, so I think maybe what you're asking will be how do we help with the implementation? So yes, we will have a software implementation team with so the software implementation team will include subject matter experts, will include product trainers, software implementers who actually will help you set up the system. We'll also have data transfer teams who can actually help with data transfer as well. And yes, part of that implementation process is that we will help you set up this implementation and help you roll out. Again, we're happy to share a lot more detailed implementation process with you. The question is, if you don't have a dependable supplier portal, is the software still available to set up just through an intranet site? Yes, you can use it still through an intranet site. But if you don't have a dependable portal, and let's say you are looking at a global supply base, and you are looking at your suppliers to be able to log in and give you this real-time input and feedback, then you can go into a cloud model if your organization strategy aligns with a cloud deployment. We can have the software installed on cloud. We will manage the server. You will still control the entire data, but the maintenance of the server, making sure the server is up to date with all the latest service packs and hotfix, patches to the software, and also ensuring security, backup, availability will all be an Omnex responsibility. So you as an end user don't have to worry about it. That's something what we can manage it through our cloud infrastructure deployment. Can a supplier scorecard be generated based on performance using this software? Absolutely. So there are many performance indicators, right? So one is the level of PPAP, so one is the audit information, failure data, frequency of failures, repeat problems, your inspection data, what is the quality of, the PPM. So yes, I showed some metric that you don't have to be limited to that. You can create your own dashboards and visualizations. Even better is that you can use that business intelligence tool that I presented to mash up with your other ERP system data as well. Like it could have DRP or PLM data, or maybe you're tracking other supplier information in another system. So you can use that data and build mashups and report as well. We are in the last 1 minute. There are about 3 more questions. I'll try to answer them for you. Is the system compatible with SAP, considering that supplier? Yes, your system is compatible with SAP. We work with the partners to connect with SAP data. So yes, you can push and pull data through SAP, and connectors are available. Okay, definitely we'll be happy to send this presentation that we presented. If you require a lot more detailed demo also, please feel free to reach out to our sales. In fact, our sales will reach out to you asking for more questions and help, and you can always schedule another personalized demo. Is there a section to evaluate annual layout? I don't understand that question very clearly. Section to evaluate annual reports. Maybe, in the interest of time, you can actually shoot us an email with a little bit more explanation on that annual layout report. It's not clear to me. Send us some more information. So we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was great presenting and talking to you. As you know, we also have a full suite. What I presented is just the supplier quality platform, but you can also have an internal platform that allows you to manage your internal quality, and you can have one platform for both internal and suppliers. Omnex, as you know, we on the coaching, implementation, consulting side of areas, we do a lot of work with you in the supply base, from supplier capability improvement, risk management, problem solving, supplier product conformity, helping them with their APQ, PPAP, and any outsourcing related capabilities, including PPAP reviews, is something what we can actually help in. That, thank you so much. It was good connecting, and look forward to see you in our next webinar. Thank you so much.